So Charlotte says can't see but can hear. Right, okay. Can I just make sure that you can see my screen? Can anyone else see the ReceiptBank dashboard on the screen at the moment? Could you just type in that you can? It could be just a problem with Charlotte's screen. Tamara, yes, you can. Right, excellent. So hopefully, Charlotte, you can... Oh, great. You can see now. Brilliant. Okay, right. Okay. Well, hi, everyone. Thanks very much for coming along tonight. I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of ReceiptBank. And I'm going to show you how it works with another software package, which happens to be Xero, which is my software of choice. So I'm going to give you just a brief demonstration, a brief tutorial on ReceiptBank, how it works, how you can use it to help your clients, and how you can sort of push your bookkeeping service forward with it, really. And then we're going to show you, hopefully, if it all works well, it's live, so things could go wrong, but I'm hoping that I can show you how it integrates with Xero, and pretty much how sort of almost magical it is, the sort of transfer of data from ReceiptBank to Xero, which I am hopefully going to demonstrate live tonight, and fingers crossed that it works. So yes, so my name is Jason Blackman. I'm an accountant. Hopefully many of you know me by now. We've done a few of these. The last one we did was on Xero itself, which went really well, was really popular. And I guess this is a kind of extension of that previous one, where I'm going to start showing you the add-ons to Xero, the sort of additional pieces of software that you can use in connection with Xero, and you can sort of further your practice, further your bookkeeping service, add a bit more value to your clients. So yeah, so this is the ReceiptBank dashboard that you can see in front of you. Incidentally, if you have got any queries, or if you've got any questions, or there's anything you want to ask about what I'm doing or anything like that, please do type it into the chat box. I can't guarantee that I'll see it because I'm looking at my screen, and I won't be looking at the chat box as we go along, but if I haven't answered any questions, I will try and do it towards the end, or even if I don't do that, I'll be saving the chat log at the end, so if you have asked me any questions that I haven't answered, I will come back to you. Okay, so yeah, as you probably know, if you know me, if you've seen my demonstrations before, if you've seen my Facebook posts, then you'll know that I am pretty much a big advocate of cloud-based accounting. And that includes Xero and ReceiptBank, and that's the two pieces of software we're going to look at tonight. Both of them based in the cloud, both of them based online. And as I've said many, many times before, I really do believe that cloud technology is the way that we need to push our practices forward. Certainly when it comes to bookkeeping, certainly when it comes to accounts preparation. I think the more that we can get into the cloud, the better for all of us, really. So, as I say, ReceiptBank dashboard is on the screen now. So basically what it is literally receipt processing software. So in layman's terms, what we're going to do is, or the way it works, I should say, is under normal circumstances, clients would give us their paperwork, whether it be monthly or quarterly, to do their bookkeeping. They'll give you, as I'm sure you're aware, a load of receipts every quarter, a load of invoices, a load of petty cash receipts, credit card receipts, etc., etc., etc. And normally as bookkeepers, we spend time, we either spread it out all over the floor, we spread it out all over our desks trying to sort it into date order, or just trying to sort it into some sort of order so that we can then process it on our bookkeeping systems. And this software, ReceiptBank, kind of eliminates that exercise, really. It takes it right back to basics. The idea behind it is that the client can scan their own receipts, their own invoices, their own petty cash receipts, credit card slips, etc., using their smartphone, and we take it from there. So it's literally as easy as that. That's what we're aiming to do, is to literally get the client to take a photo of their invoice, of their receipt, with their smartphone, using a special app that we would install on their phone for them, a ReceiptBank app, which I certainly do it for my clients who install it free of charge. We use the ReceiptBank service free of charge. I'll explain a bit more about the pricing later on and how you can sort of incorporate the pricing into your service. But certainly I would recommend that you don't charge separately for ReceiptBank, just like with Xero. with my clients, I don't raise a separate charge for it. I incorporate it into my fee, and it makes your fee look a lot more valuable. You know, you can deliver a much better service if you're charging your client, for example, a fixed monthly fee, and you're including software like Xero and software like ReceiptBank. It just gives the service a sort of a much more added value feel to it. So what I've done here is, we're going back to the Blue Peter thing here. Here's something I prepared earlier, and I have scanned a few receipts already. So I've taken a few pictures on my smartphone of a couple of receipts I've picked up over the last few days, with the idea that I'm going to demonstrate how they work within ReceiptBank. So, but first, before I do that, I'm just going to click on the box up here that says Add Items. So if I just click on that. Now this shows you the various methods that you can use to import receipts into ReceiptBank. Now obviously, as I've just mentioned, the smartphone app is probably the best way to do it. That's certainly going to be the best way for your clients, and it's going to be the easiest way, you know, for them to just take a picture of their invoice or receipt. It's going to make that very, very easy for them. But there are various methods, as you can see up the top here, that you can import information into ReceiptBank. Now you can upload. Now, if you have, for example, PDF documents, PDF invoices that you want to upload into ReceiptBank, then you can find them on your desktop and literally drag them into this box here, and that will upload them into ReceiptBank. Now there's also an option for email. Now when you get ReceiptBank for your clients, when you have a data file for them, you will get a totally unique email address. And what you can actually do is you can ask your clients' suppliers to email their invoices straight to this sort of generic address. So the client doesn't have to sort of touch the paperwork at all. So the client's supplier can send the invoice straight to this email address, and it will appear in your ReceiptBank dashboard. So it's another sort of shortcut to get the information through into ReceiptBank. Now, apps is what I've talked about just now, and that's what I'm going to show you shortly. That's the phone app. There's by post as well. It's very much a sort of a long-winded method by post, but ReceiptBank do work like that. You can sort of collect all your receipts up into a bag. ReceiptBank will send you out some sort of jiffy bags. You can put all your receipts together in that, send them off to ReceiptBank, and they'll be processed in that way. As I say, perfectly okay method to use, but the smartphone is probably the quickest and the best way. There's a couple of others here as well. There's PayPal. I'm not going to go into huge detail about these last three now, but you can import PayPal information into ReceiptBank. You can import mileage information into ReceiptBank, and you can set up a Dropbox folder as well. But as I say, in this short demonstration tonight, I'm not going to go through every single method. We're going to concentrate really on the smartphone app one. So I'm going to go back to Inbox. Now, if you see here, there's 3 receipts here. Now, these are receipts that I have collected over the last couple of days and that I have scanned on my ReceiptBank app on my smartphone. So, as you can see, I've been to hospital a couple of times, and I visited the RVS coffee shop, and I've got a couple of receipts from there, and there's also a Costa coffee there which I visited as well. And I've scanned those 3 receipts into ReceiptBank, and I would say it probably takes, I don't know, around maybe 3 to 4 hours for them to appear in ReceiptBank. So it is pretty quick. So that's sort of 3 to 4 hours from snapping it on your smartphone. You will then get this receipt into ReceiptBank. So we'll take the Costa coffee one. So literally all I've done with this Costa coffee receipt is take a picture of it. I've done nothing else. So ReceiptBank have entered all this information that you see here. Now, again, I'm not going to go into too much detail with every single field on here because that's going to take a lot longer than 45 minutes. I'm just going to sort of give you the gist of how ReceiptBank works, really. So I'm not going to sort of open up every single menu and show you every single option. I'm just going to show you the basic premise of ReceiptBank. So as I say, all I've done is take a photo on my smartphone of this receipt from Costa Coffee. So ReceiptBank have filled all this information in for us. So it knows it's a receipt, it's dated it, it's set the supplier name up, it's put the total amount in, as you can see that's $6.75 what it's put in. It's also, now VAT, I'm not going to go into whether there's VAT on coffee or not at this particular moment in time, but as you can see on the Costa Coffee receipt, there is £1.14 in VAT, and ReceiptBank have entered that as well, £1.14 in VAT. Now they've categorized it for us. So at the moment, they've coded it to general expenses. Now you can completely customize this code. It can be changed, but general expenses is probably a good code for it. So we'll leave it as it is there for now. Now, at the moment, it says paid no. Now, obviously this is a cash receipt, so it is paid, but I've selected no for a particular reason, and that's because I want to show you how it imports into Xero, and I want to show you that quite clearly. So I'm going to pretend that we haven't paid for this receipt and that it's going to be a creditor in Xero. I know it's not, but for demonstration purposes, this is probably the best way to do it. But obviously, under normal circumstances, this would be paid yes. But at the moment, as I say, I'm going to say no because it enables me to show you it in Xero a lot clearer. Now, payment method you can choose as well. So if it is paid, we'll just click on yes for the moment. And you can, it's not going to come up for me at the moment, but that would say sort of bank, cash, that sort of thing, credit card, etc., etc. But at the moment, I'm going to say no. And so I'm going to leave it like that for now. Just leave it like that. So I'm going to say it's an unpaid receipt. Now, I should also mention at this time, this is a pretty obvious thing, but I do need to mention it, is that in order for this to work, you obviously have to sync it to your, in this case, Xero account. And that's very, very easy to do. Once you first set ReceiptBank up, you can sort of link it to your bookkeeping package. So in this case, it's Xero. So I have synced this ReceiptBank client, if you like, to the Xero demo company. So I've synced the two together, so they're talking to each other now. So when I click on publish in a second, it's going to publish it to that Xero demo company. Now this is the magical bit, and I'm really, really hoping this works. So if you remember, when I advertised this session, I said about how to do bookkeeping without touching the keyboard. Now, I would say pretty much that I haven't really touched the keyboard at all in that stage, as you'll see. ReceiptBank has coded up all that information for me. I haven't needed to type anything in at all at the moment. So if you can imagine, your client's taking all these pictures of all these receipts and all these invoices, and ReceiptBank is going to enter all this information for you, so you don't need to do it. So once you're happy with it, once you're happy that the code's correct, once you're happy the VAT's correct, you're happy the supplier, the date, etc., we can click on publish. So I'll press publish now. Just like that. So it says the item has been queued for publishing. Now, this is the impressive bit. So what I'm going to do is flick back into Xero. Now, it's going to take a couple of minutes, but hopefully not too long. So this is the demo company in Xero, and this is the company that I have linked ReceiptBank to. So as you'll see down here, bills you need to pay. Now, if you remember just now, I said paid no on that bill. Now, the reason I said paid no is because I want it to appear under this draft bill section. So at the moment, there's no draft bills here. So it's going to highlight it when this receipt does filter through in a few seconds. And I'm hoping it literally is in a few seconds. So I'm going to refresh this screen now. It may not work on the first time, but I'm hoping it will on the second time. And it has. So there we go. So how long was that? 30 seconds. So 30 seconds after pressing publish, it's now in Xero as a draft bill. So if I click on it, there we go. So we'll click on the entry so we can have a look at it properly. Sharon says, I'm just going to pause now to answer Sharon's question. Says, do you import your nominals from Xero? Now the answer is yes, you do, Sharon. So when the syncing exercise takes place, which I did earlier, I synced the demo account to the ReceiptBank account. As you'll see, 429 general expenses. You may remember seeing that in ReceiptBank just now. So ReceiptBank will pick up all the nominal codes from whatever you sync it to. So in this case, I've just synced it to the demo company, so it's picked up all the Xero default accounts. So let me just answer another question. Adam says, what if a client has more than one business? Is there a way to separate each business? It's a very good point. I mean, I guess if you had more than one business, then you would have it as two businesses on Xero. So by default, you would probably need two ReceiptBank accounts to sort of differentiate the two. So I would probably say, yes, Adam, you would separate them. So here we go. So this receipt that I've just sent through to Xero, it's sent through all this information here. So it's sent through Costa Coffee, the date. Now it's given it its own reference. So ReceiptBank generates this reference. So that's been brought through over into zero. Now, another clever bit here, if you see there the little box there, there's a picture and it says 1 on it. That means there's an image attached to the invoice. So if I click on that, and there's a JPEG file there. So if I click on that JPEG file, you will see that the other bit of magic, eventually, there's a copy of the scanned receipt as well. So, as well as having a copy of the receipt, a sort of photo of the scanned copy in ReceiptBank, you will also have it in Xero as well. So you're going to have 2 copies of this particular receipt. It's going to be stored in the bookkeeping in Xero here, but it's also going to be archived in ReceiptBank. So we're going back to the sort of theory, and the question I often get asked is, do we need to keep paperwork once it's been processed in ReceiptBank? Now, the simple answer to that is no, you don't. The beauty of ReceiptBank, and ReceiptBank do really make a big thing of this in their marketing, is when you've taken a picture of your, in this case, coffee shop receipt, once you've taken a picture of it and you've processed it in ReceiptBank, you can literally screw it up and throw it in the bin. Now, I know that does make a lot of people nervous, and people are very, very nervous about throwing paperwork away or shredding it or destroying it. But this system does allow you to do that. You have got 2 backup copies of this scanned receipt. You've got one in Xero and you've got one in ReceiptBank. So there's the scanned copy. So I'm going to close that for now. So it brings forward the total. Now the description, it leaves blank apart from a little full stop there. So you can type in anything you want to in the description if you want to. As you can see, it's coded up to general expenses. It's claimed the VAT of £1.14. I'm not even going to go into the adjustments to tax at the moment. Adjustments to tax is just to do with VAT rounding. I'm not going to go into it right now. It's very rare that this happens. It's just so happened that it's appeared on this entry here. But the VAT will always be the same as what's been brought through in ReceiptBank. So once you're happy with that, you're happy with everything. Again, as you can see, I haven't touched the keyboard. So ReceiptBank has brought all this through into Xero as a bill. So once you're happy with it, you can say approve, which I'll do now. So that bill has now been approved in Xero, and it's entered fully into the system. So as you can see, now I've done that. Draft bills is now at 0. I've got 20 awaiting payment. This is a demo company, so there's 19 others in there as well. But just to prove it is in there awaiting payment, I can click on this figure here. And there we are. Costa Coffee, we've just sent it through. So it's waiting there to be paid. And we've got the little icon there that shows we've got a scanned copy of the receipt in it as well. So that bill will sit on Xero now as a creditor waiting to be paid. And later on down the line when we import our bank information, as I say, this receipt, it's paid cash, so it's not really relevant. I really did this to sort of show you how it works. But under normal circumstances, if you were scanning purchase invoices in, they would sit in the awaiting bills screen. And then when you come to import your bank and the bank payment comes through, that can all filter through as a paid creditor when you get to that stage. But again, I'm not going to go into that stage now. The whole purpose of tonight is to show you how ReceiptBank works. So we're going to do it once more, just to prove that wasn't a fluke. So if we go back into the dashboard, so we've got draft bills 0. We're going to go back into ReceiptBank. And we're going to go back to the inbox. So we click on the inbox again. So you will see that the Costa Coffee receipt that I've published is no longer in the inbox. So we've processed it. So it's now going to sit in this tab here. If we click on archive, there we go. So it's now sat in the archived file, and that will stay in ReceiptBank. So there's your separate record of it. So it's sat in there, nice and safe and sound. It's disappeared from the inbox, and it's now in the archive. So we're going to go back to inbox again. So we're just going to do it with another one, just to sort of show you the whole process again. And so we've got a receipt here for the Royal Voluntary Service, £9.19 on the 9th of December. Again, I bought some bits and pieces from the shop in the hospital. I scanned my receipt on my smartphone. It's come through to ReceiptBank within 3 or 4 hours. I'm going to click on it now. There's a copy of the receipt. And there's all the various details. Again, the date, the supplier which ReceiptBank has put in for us. Now, on this particular receipt, there's no sort of mention of VAT, so ReceiptBank hasn't claimed any VAT. But as I say, this is completely customizable. You can change that, and you can change that as well. Now, what I will tell you about quickly is you'll see here set supplier rules. So you can, if I can just click on that quickly, you can set certain rules for suppliers. So if we had a lot of receipts from the RVS, for example, we could set these up as default and they would always appear when we scan a receipt from RVS. You can also auto-publish. So auto-publishing is sometimes a bit risky because it literally does that. It doesn't even let you see it. It automatically publishes it to software like Xero. So you can still check it in Xero, but for me, I like to see the receipts. I like to check all the details before I actually publish it. So again, I'm going to say paid no for this purpose, just to prove that it's going to come through as a draft bill again. But as I say, these fields are completely customizable, but you don't have to change them. If ReceiptBank has got all those details correct, you don't have to change them. So I'm going to click on publish again. So I'll click on publish. So it says this item has been queued for publishing. So if we go back into inbox, and you can actually see that receipt, it says there publishing. So that's in the process of transferring it over to Xero. So as I say, last time it was around about 30 seconds, wasn't it? So hopefully it's going to be the same again. So we'll refresh the screen in Xero. We're looking down here, bills we need to pay. Okay, so it hasn't come through quite yet, so a few more seconds for it to come through. So while we're waiting for it to come through, I'll just mention about how we pay for ReceiptBank and how we charge our clients. Now, you can become a partner of ReceiptBank if you've got a few clients to add. They will happily add you as a ReceiptBank partner. And if my maths is right, it's around about £9 per month per client. That doesn't allow you sort of unlimited invoicing, unlimited sort of snapping of receipts, but it will allow you a decent amount. And if you do go over your sort of quota, then ReceiptBank will let you know before they charge you any more. But it's round about £9 per month per client, which I think is a bit of a bargain. If you're providing your clients with a service where they're taking a picture of their invoices on their smartphone, then, to me, that's worth paying £9 a month for. Now, as I say, I wouldn't recommend recharging your client £9 a month. I would recommend packaging it as part of your bookkeeping service. This is a really, really valuable service to give to clients. So what I would do is I'd sort of package the whole thing up, the sort of ReceiptBank and the bookkeeping in Xero or QuickBooks or Free Agent, whatever you decide to use, and just quote your client one monthly fee to include this whole service, because it's a very, very valuable service, especially when you put all the pieces together. Extremely valuable. So we're going to go back to the Xero dashboard. Now I've waffled on for a couple of minutes, and hopefully there we go. So we've got the draft bill there, so it's taken a couple of minutes to come through. £9.19 from RVS. We'll click on that. And there it is. So again, ReceiptBank gives it a generic number for you. So we'll click on that just to have a look at it again. So there we go, Royal Voluntary Service, the date, the number. Again, we've got the number 1 here, which contains a copy of the receipt. So if I click on that and click on the JPEG file, again, that will show you a copy of the receipt, and that's stored safely in Xero now as well. So what I did do, as soon as I snapped this receipt into ReceiptBank, I screwed it up into a ball and chucked it in the bin, because we've got it nice and safely on here, and we've got it nice and safely stored in ReceiptBank as well. So again, you can customize the description if you want to. You can just need to double check the VAT. Now, in this case, Xero has decided to put 20% VAT on it, so it says £1.53. Now, this is, again, not going to go into the argument now on whether there's VAT on these goods or not. It's going to be pretty obvious most of the time if you have a VAT invoice whether there's VAT on it or not, but that's something you need to decide before you publish it, or before you approve it, I should say, on Xero. But because ReceiptBank didn't put any VAT on it at all, we'll go with that. So we'll change that to 0 rated. So there's no VAT on it. We'll say approve. And that's going to sit in Xero in our outstanding bills again, hopefully. So if we go back to the dashboard just to double check, and we're going to say awaiting payment. So our RVS bill should be sat in there. And there we go, 919, there it is. And again, even on this screen here, even looking at our outstanding bills, we can still click. If we've got a number 1 and a picture there, we can still click on there and that will show you the invoice or the receipt straight away. So let's just sort of prove it works. Okay, so that's how it comes through to Xero. So we're going to go back to ReceiptBank. We'll look in the archive again. And there's the RVS one that we've just published. So that's now in the archive. It's now not in the inbox anymore because we've published it, but it is stored safe and sound in the archive. So if we go back into inbox, there should just be that one item left. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a demonstration of how ReceiptBank works. I think it's an amazing bit of kit. There are other systems available. ReceiptBank is probably one of the most well-known, and it's certainly one of the most recognised with Xero. Xero are a big fan of ReceiptBank, and they really market it well. A very good partnership, Xero and ReceiptBank. They do a lot of work together. At most of the Xero conferences, ReceiptBank will be there. So they work really well together, and to offer your clients a service like this, which sort of puts ReceiptBank and Xero hand in hand together, I think it's a really worthwhile service to sort of sell to your clients. And on that note, a very good point to make, I think, now is how wrong hourly charging is, hourly pricing. Charging by the hour for bookkeeping is, I think, very wrong, and I think it's a very wrong way to charge. Because as you'll see, delivering a service like this to a client, which is massively valuable, but as you can see, it doesn't take long to do. The amount of work that you have to do is really quite minimal now. Now, I've said to you about providing a great bookkeeping service without touching the keyboard, and that's true. You can see that I haven't needed to touch the keyboard for those few invoices, for those few receipts. So this is a hugely valuable service, and if you're charging by the hour, then your monthly bill is suddenly going to go down because your workload is so much less. You're doing this bookkeeping work so much quicker. But does that mean you're going to charge the client less? And of course it doesn't. You should be charging the client more because you're delivering to them such a valuable service. And I'll give you a little example, a sort of real life example. I took on a client in London. She was, I think she was a greeting card supplier. And she did lots of other sort of little gifts as well, I think. And I took her on as a client. I went to see her in London to talk to her about her first VAT return. And I walked into her office and all her paperwork was all over her floor. It was spread about everywhere. I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm just sorting out the first quarter's paperwork for you and putting it all into date order." So I introduced her to ReceiptBank, and she was blown away by it. She couldn't believe how easy it could be. She doesn't need to sit there for hours on end and sort through her paperwork for me. All she needs to do is literally, when an invoice comes in, take a picture of it on her phone. That's all she needs to do, and it will feed through to my ReceiptBank dashboard. She doesn't need to collect all the information together. She doesn't need to sit there for hours getting all the paperwork ready for me. It's just not something she needs to do anymore. And clients really appreciate that. You're making the client's life easier. So why shouldn't you be charging a premium price for doing that? You certainly shouldn't be charging an hourly rate for it. And so, yeah, the client absolutely loved ReceiptBank. That's how we worked continuously. Every day, literally, when she got an invoice in, when she got a receipt in, she would take a picture of it. And every day it would filter through to my dashboard. And another little story I'll tell you about very quickly is another accountant I know. She's not too far from me, actually, down in Sussex, and she's got a bookkeeping practice, and she uses Xero and she uses ReceiptBank, and she exclusively uses these two pieces of software. In fact, she now won't take any clients on unless she's using Xero and ReceiptBank with them. So her service is based on ReceiptBank. So when she takes a client on, she says, right, this is how we're going to do your bookkeeping. And as I say, she sort of bases her business around that system. So if she takes on any new staff, it's very easy to pick up the system that she uses. And every day she will get on her ReceiptBank dashboard for all her clients, she'll get the invoices and the receipts filtering through. So she might get sort of, 2, 3, 4 a day for each client, but that enables her and her staff to code them up there and then. and job done. You know, she hasn't got to wait until the quarter end for the hundreds and hundreds of invoices and receipts to come through. They literally do it for every client on a daily basis, and doing it that way, it's quick. The workload's never a lot because by definition there's not going to be more than a few invoices or bills every day, so it's quick to do. And on top of all that, she's giving the client a fantastic service, and it's totally up to date. You know, it couldn't be any more up to date. You know, traditionally in the old days, when you do a VAT return, by the time you give the client the bookkeeping figures, the management figures, they're 3 months out of date. You know, using a system like this, like ReceiptBank, like Xero, using cloud accounting, you can give a client a totally up-to-date system. And I think that's what they appreciate, and that's what they want in this modern world, really. And moving forward, when we move forward to April 2018, when we get onto Making Tax Digital, you know, this sort of stuff is going to come into its own then. Making Tax Digital, we're going to have to report figures real time, you know. Each quarter we're going to have to submit real-time figures to HMRC. So this sort of way of working with packages like ReceiptBank and like Xero, it's going to come into its own, you know. You have to be adopting this sort of stuff. So I've got a question here from Tamara. It says, what other bookkeeping packages does ReceiptBank work well with apart from Xero? If you go into have a look on their website, maybe later on, Tamara, I'll type the address into the chat box, and you can actually have a look on their website at all the different packages it works through, but that works with. But there are quite a few. Certainly, I know there's Xero, there's QuickBooks Online, and there's Free Agent. That's the sort of 3 main packages that are around at the moment, and it works brilliantly with all them. As I say, because Xero is my software of choice, that's the one that I work with. But yeah, it does work with many other packages as well. And I think that's another thing about ReceiptBank. The beauty of it is that you're not tied to a particular package. If you're a Free Agent user or if you're a QuickBooks Online user, you can still use ReceiptBank. But if you have clients on Xero, you can use it. You can use it as well. You know, you can actually have a situation where you've got lots of different clients on different systems. So let's say you've got some on Xero, you've got some on Free Agent, you've got some on QuickBooks Online. You can still use ReceiptBank in your practice, but just link each client to their individual package. So, you know, you don't need to have different receipt processing systems if you're using different cloud bookkeeping software packages, if that makes sense. So, okay, so we're nearly at 10 to 9, so we've probably got about 10 minutes. So I'm going to be here. I'm going to hang around for another 10 minutes. But hopefully that's given you a bit of a demonstration of how ReceiptBank works and how ReceiptBank works with Xero or any other accounting package for that matter. How easy it is to use, how easy it is for the client to use, and how it really transforms bookkeeping. I really believe it does. I really believe it's changing the face of bookkeeping packages like this. It's making our job, you know, it's making our job easier, but at the same time, it's providing clients with a more valuable service. And at the end of the day, it is making clients' lives easier as well. You know, for them to keep banging on about taking the pictures of their receipts on their smartphone, but you're making a client's life so much easier by doing that. So it's a game changer, you know, it really is. Cloud accounting is definitely the way to go, and software like ReceiptBank and software like Xero are sort of changing the game, really. So I'm going to stop recording now, and I'm going to turn my microphone off, but I'm going to leave the chat box open. So I'm going to be here for another 10 minutes or so. If you want to ask me any questions at all about what you've seen, please feel free to do so. I'll be here. But in the meantime, hope the demonstration was helpful for you. Hope it's given you a bit of an insight into ReceiptBank and how it works with Xero. And as I say, any questions at all, please type them into the chat box. I'll stop the recording now. The recording will be available afterwards, so you can watch it again. We'll put it up on the YouTube channel over the next couple of days. Hopefully it's been useful. Thanks very much, everyone. Appreciate it, and I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks very much.